OKC, Minnesota. Same thing. 2 games have happened since we last recorded. Thunder took game 2. Gosh, now that game 3's happened, trying to think about like what really happened in game 2. Julius Randle put up a big stinker. Scored 6 points, I think. Just a terrible performance for how good he's been this playoffs. It just once again feel like Minnesota would hang around for a little bit, and then the defensive intensity and just overall, defense of the OKC would come, and they just land a knockout punch and go on a little run, and Minnesota couldn't recover. In game 3, unless you want to say anything about game 2?
I do want to say something. It again proved what I've been saying a couple times already, that to beat the Thunder, you got to play 48 minutes of complete basketball, and the Minnesota does not do that. They're only down 8 going into halftime, and then they lose the third quarter by 14. Randall was not productive, as I kind of expected him to not be throughout this series. He kind of changes that in game 3, but I kind of have a different view on it.
Game 3 feels like a different game. I don't know. It just...
And for a game where, for me, I thought it was super impactful for the entire series, that a game where people are saying, oh my God, the bench players are finally making shots. Dante DiVincenzo hits 2 threes. Nickeil Alexander-Walker hits 3. It didn't matter because, the Julius Randle was not productive.
Yeah.
And Ant was not as productive from 3, at least. So, for me, I was like, oh, well, that kind of just ends the series right there. That the Timberwolves are going to need 48 minutes of just complete basketball, which is exactly what I felt. But to see it play out that way, it proved to me that the Thunder are a team that feels unbeatable unless you play 4 perfect games. And the Timberwolves were able to do that in game 3, Jack.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to play 4 perfect games. Well, I guess maybe so.
I'd say 3.
Yeah,
so
3.
The Thunder at their youth are due for a stinker.
Yeah.
Or a collapse.
Talking about, this OKC is just always sitting there waiting to deliver the knockout blow and just suffocate you with their defense. To me, it felt like the Wolves gave OKC a taste of their own medicine in game 3 from the defensive intensity standpoint. Just from the jump, another desperation game, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're down 2-0 in this series. They have the crowd behind them. They're back at home. It's just different mentality, different energy out the jump. They're suffocating OKC. They talked a ton on the broadcast about the pickup point of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
They were picking him up lower, but then they were picking up a lot of other guys higher. Masterful game plan from that standpoint. It really threw OKC off. Shai couldn't really get comfortable. And then from there, they get going. They start off with this defensive intensity, and then they just start hitting shots. And at that point, with all that momentum and energy, they were off to the races. They shot 50% from 3, hit 20 of them. Everyone was contributing. Terrence Shannon comes in out of nowhere off the bench and scores 15, gives them great minutes. It feels like when I'm blanking what he calls it, but when it's not that this game doesn't matter, but it's like the margins and how well stuff played out is it's like when a team in football rushes for 500 yards and it's like, okay, well, putting that in their averages feels like, that's too extreme because 500 just doesn't really happen. That's kind of how this game feels in the sense of like
a Heisman booster game where you play a Division II school and you boost a player boosts his stats a ton.
Yeah, and it's not
perspective.
And since it's OKC, it's that's not a 1-to-1 because OKC is not a team you just boost off of. But with how the team was playing and everything, it's everything was falling. They were just boosting stats because of all the vibes and how good the energy was.
Mm-hmm.
And then they end up winning by 42 points, 143-101. But yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. Is Minnesota gave OKC a taste of their own medicine. So I'm interested how game 4 goes, how OKC bounces back. But what are your thoughts on this game, JP?
I thought it was important for Minnesota to do this. I expected them to win, and I expected them to win comfortably, to be honest, because of the desperation aspect. And the Thunder, this is where a spot where the youth can catch up to them because they haven't developed that killer mindset yet that we would see out of like the Warriors dynasty. We saw that with the KD and Steph teams, specifically in the NBA Finals. they went out and they won Game 3 in Cleveland both of those times against the LeBron Cavs, because they knew how big that game was from a momentum perspective. And then in the first finals, the refs just give the Cavs Game 4, and they're able to win Game 5. But it was this is where the youth kind of caught up to the Thunder, where they're not at the spot yet in their career where this is a game that they're going to go out there and win, as impactful as it can be to win this game, because winning the game wins the series,
Sure.
because no one has ever come back from down 3-0. So
It also is the thing of like we've seen this OKC team start games pretty tight multiple times, and Minnesota just never let them regain their footing.
yeah, and this has been the story as well of the playoffs for the Thunder, is they just haven't been good on the road at all.
Sure.
Both the Grizzly games were close. You lose Game 3 after our awful fourth quarter to the Nuggets, and then you win. You're able to win Game 4, and again you lose Game 6 because you're just bad in the second half. Again, another poor performance from the Thunder, but I for them it was like, okay, you punched us once. You got to beat us 3 more times.
Yeah, that was
from
You could-
a confidence perspective.
You could listen to Shea on the bench when they got him on the hot mic or mic'd up or whatever, and it was very similar of like they don't view this as like, oh gosh, we just lost by 41. It's like, we did 1 or 2 things wrong and it snowballed from there. We cleaned those 2 things up. We're totally fine. We'll get them next game.
Yeah, same.
that wasn't the Minnesota perfect game, right?
For me, it kind of felt that
Okay.
way. That
Yeah, I'd
this
agree.
was the Minnesota perfect game, and it shows that way. They win every quarter from a points perspective. They are electric from 3-point. They are
Did
really,
they
really good from
Win
a defensive perspective.
you win the turnover margin against OKC. Like
Mhm.
that doesn't really ever happen. Like
This felt like the perfect game from them, while it was on the opposite side of the Thunder were really, really bad.
Yeah.
Which I would credit to the defense, like Jack was saying, was a large part of that. Holding Shea to 14 points, whether he's a big foul baiter or not to you, is
very
a
impressive.
statement.
Yeah.
It was the first time he's been held under 15 points since, I think it was March or so of 2024. So
Wow.
literally an entire calendar year, and more in 2 months. So like to hold Shea to this low of points was impressive, and a statement. But I don't think it's like we've been saying, the Thunder would feel any woes and confidence from this because, again, desperation game. Minnesota kind of pitches their perfect game, as Sanders was saying, or at least posing. And, this is now you go on to Game 4, and that kind of is the series right there, is Game 4, which is this is what I love about NBA playoff series is every game almost feels like it is the series. Game 3, like, literally is the series because the Thunder, when they win the series, if the Timberwolves win, they have a chance.
Yeah.
Game 4 feels the same because you go back to Game 5 and it's tied 2-2. It'll be interesting, and it's going to be, like, electric. The Thunder, again, have to prove that they're not young and that they're mature enough to win this. The Timberwolves are kind of in the same spot, also being young. But they've already shown in last season's postseason that they're able to win games like this. They did this against the Denver Nuggets, winning Game 5 and Game 7 against the Denver Nuggets last season. But yeah, this was expected for me. But you still have to give a ton of credit to them because they went out and did it. The Timberwolves did what they were supposed to do. And I also think it was, Jack, you were saying last night, and I think I changed your perspective on it, that it was kind of a boring game and you kind of hated that you had to see this. But for me, it felt like this was a big one to boost Timberwolves' confidence, and it should set up a high-stakes Game 4 and Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, like with 5 minutes left in the fourth, I was like, never mind, this is really fun, just because it was fun to watch how well the Timberwolves were playing and just the crowd behind them and all of that. And it is, we talked about this game doesn't really matter for OKC's confidence, but it's obviously huge for Minnesota's. And I think it's the biggest thing I was surprised about from Game 1 and 2, especially with Ant, is like he played with his chip on his shoulder, and he truly believes he's the best player on the court at all times. And he kind of looked like he had that edge again in Game 3. And also, I mentioned, just talking about it yesterday while the game was going on, it looked also like Minnesota as a team, remember that they're also really good defensively, that they're a really strong unit. Rudy Gobert gave you good minutes after lackluster game 1 and 2. Now he's still not going to do anything offensively, but that doesn't really matter. I don't know, just up and down the board, everyone played really, really well. And that bodes well for Game 4. I'm interested to see how those performances continue. Talking about after Game 1 about the fact that like Dante wasn't shooting the ball well, and Nikhil Alexander-Walker wasn't shooting the ball well, and Naz Reid hadn't been shooting the ball well after the first couple Lakers games, and they all hit some big threes in this game. And so I'm interested to see if that can kind of spark something for the role players and bench guys moving on.
They were 6 for 9 from 3, those 3 guys, which was big in this game, especially early on. But, yeah, it'll be interesting. Game 4 is going to be awesome. I can't wait for tomorrow night. It's a big stepping stone. I think the Thunder win that. They win Game 5. But I also kind of think the Thunder win in Game 5 regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
So Timberwolves
Just they win this, then they wrap up the series.
Is a must win tonight to extend, or tomorrow night to extend the series. Almost tonight. We're getting close to that.
We are.
This one, shout out Andrew McBride, really does feel like, the old saying of like, the series doesn't start until a home team loses a game,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a little overplayed. But after watching Minnesota, and this could be, overreaction, prisoner of the moment, but after watching Minnesota at home in Game 3, it does kind of feel like that. So, do you have anything you want to add, Sanders? I don't know if you did.
No,
you watch?
I'm trying to. So, when the Pacers beat, okay, I'm just trying to think through that. The series doesn't start till the home team loses a game.
Doesn't apply to every series, but it's commonly said.
Yeah,
I've never heard it, so that's interesting. No, I don't have.
And it's usually for me. It's flipped the other way. It's the series doesn't start until the road team wins. But same saying.
It is
same saying. I do like that flip on it though, honestly, because like who's going to go take a game on the road?
Mm-hmm.
And we've not seen it in this series yet at all. Which I know. I mean, this game feels like there will be a little bit of a blip on the radar. In a lot of ways, especially just with it being an absolute blowout, and that makes it really easy for OKC to not have to. When you're up 30, you don't really have to worry about this OKC comeback where their defense starts clamping. And also talking about, it being a blowout. OKC came out after half and tried to find to the lead. They really did, but pretty soon after you could kind of tell they were like, okay, like we're just going to take our foot off the gas and we'll get ready for the next game.
Yeah, they were down 31 at halftime, so pretty insurmountable.
Yeah.
Even for the Pacers or the Knicks.
I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think the Celtics could blow a 30-point lead.
Definitely possible.
Shout out Joe Mazzulla.
So the question is, did this game change anything? Well, I don't think it changed anything, but Game 4, what are y'all's thoughts?
It makes me more excited for the rest of the series, obviously.
Yeah.
OKC's just been so good all year. I think I still like OKC to win Game 4.
And 5.
Man, that just, yeah. I don't know. I'm trying not to be too overreactionary to Game 3, as I've said multiple times. But at the same time, the Timberwolves made big adjustments and really made the Thunder are going to have to come back and make adjustments to counter that.
Mm-hmm.
So screw it. I'll take the Timberwolves to win Game 4.
I think they got a decent chance. I think this will be the closest game of the series for me.
This will be our first game closer than 20-something points. If it's a close game, the bar is pretty low.
15 is the lowest score differential between a game.
We could be looking at our first crunch time game.
That'll be interesting, especially with these two teams. But I Game 3 in both series did not change my perspective about my pick for either series. I still think the Knicks win in 7, and I still think the Thunder win in 5.
It would be really funny if the Game 3 in the Eastern Conference changed your perspective on who wins that series. Just considering the Knicks won, you have the Knicks in 7.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, I agree.
Now that'd be a
Um,
crazy call from you if you were like, no. But sorry to interrupt.
Or the Pacers had won tonight.
Well, sure.
I would have changed my perspective of it. My dad's cousin, who's from New York, is pretty adamant that the Knicks are going to win in 7, and he said that when they were down 20 in the second quarter today. So
Respect to him then.
shout out to the New Yorkers and shout out to Jeff. Yeah, neither of Game 3 kind of deterred me from my pick perspective. I still think the Thunder win this in 5. I expect Game 4 to be close, come down to the wire. I expect the Thunder to make a few plays defensively, Timberwolves to miss a few shots, and then we go back to Game 5, and I expect the Thunder to close that at home.
Sure.
With that home crowd and advance back to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012.
Yeah, I mean, I just said I have Timberwolves winning Game 4, but I still expect this to OKC to wrap this up in, I'd say, 6. So
Shout out SGA, game worn jersey from Game 2. So
yeah,
Game worn like you wore for intramurals or
he wore it while watching Game 2.
yeah.
fresh out of the wrapping from
Huge.
today. So
Good stuff.